Hey guys, how's it going? It's El Platano Loco back at it again with our number 5, episode 5, as far as our review series here. And I'm really excited about every review because we're going over a bunch of the new cards, new archetypes are being introduced into Hearthstone as we know it in the Year of the Phoenix. And without further ado, let's get right into it. Our first card here is Lady Liadrin. Lady Liadrin is a 7 mana 4/6 paladin minion, legendary of course. And the battle cry reads: add a copy of each spell you cast on friendly characters this game to your hand. First thing I want to say, kind of like a fanboyish little comment here, but I remember when Lady Liadrin, the hero portrait, was introduced into Hearthstone, and I had to grind to level 20 on a World of Warcraft character. That was actually really fun to do, and my first time playing WoW actually. So I'm glad that they brought her into the game finally, because she was another character that people were interested in and wondering when she would show up. So just kind of like a sidebar. But let's get into the effect here. So as you noticed, it did say friendly characters this game to your hand. So any spell that you did cast, as far as healing your face, healing any minions, or buffing up any minions, all of those spells that you cast throughout the game are going to be returned to you. So as far as value, this does have a lot of value packed in. Now as far as the stat line here is a little lacking, but for the effect they kind of had to offset it some way, so I do understand why it is a 4/6. And I just think that this card is going to be really great, especially in control. As far as like more aggressive decks is kind of questionable, but I'm just thinking about, like, getting back, let's say, healing cards when you're in a pinch against more aggressive decks. This is a big refuel. And from what we saw with the tome cards that were introduced actually today, I think that this card does have a lot of potential. I'm going to give Lady Liadrin a 4 out of 5. As far as the stats are leave a lot to be desired, but that effect is going to be really strong, and I'm very interested to see where it goes with the tome cards that came out. So we'll see. But I really like the effect. Our next card here is Beastmaster Leorox. So Beastmaster Leorox here is a 8 mana hunter legendary minion that is a 5/5, and the battle cry reads: summon 3 beasts from your hand. So what they showed in one of the Hearthstone little clips was, Beastmaster being played in the perfect scenario where you have King Crush in your hand and Tundra Rhino, and I think there was another beast, and they all just like immediately charged out the gate. So in that perfect scenario, it does seem really strong. Now I'm just wondering whether, because you're most likely going to play like a big hunter. It reminds me somewhat, as far as like a value bomb, of Katharina back when she was a thing. But the cool thing, or the good thing about Katharina, was that you didn't really have to kind of like set up as much. You just kind of dropped Katharina, and she would pull a big taunt, or she would just pull like a big minion, and then you would just get a lot of value. And on a death rally, you would get the second piece of that. Now, with the Witchwood rotating, because one card that I was thinking about was Witchwood Grizzly, but that's rotating out with Witchwood, so we're going to have to see if maybe there's going to be any beasts with taunt, because that way, when you play Beastmaster, if you're able to summon beasts with taunt alongside, let's say, a King Crush or another big beast, then this thing sees very, 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 very big plays coming its way. But still, nonetheless, this thing is not to be underestimated. I'm pretty sure there's going to be a couple of more big beasts that's going to be introduced in the set, or they wouldn't really, print something like this out. Unfortunately, we are losing a good amount of beasts with the rotation of the Witchwood, as well as Rastakan's Rumble. So that's kind of unfortunate, but hopefully we're able to replenish and work towards that big beast archetype. But I really like the card, and it does something immediately when you play it. 3 minions is a lot, and if the minions already have rush, or if they have charge, or let's say rush with lifesteal, that's already an initial benefit as soon as this is played, pulling those big minions from your hand. So I think this has a lot of potential. Beastmaster Leerox, I'm going to give a 4 out of 5. Our next card here, Augmented Porcupine. Augmented Porcupine is a 3 mana, 2/4 hunter minion, which reads Death Rattle. Deal this minion's attack randomly split among all enemies. So similar to what we were talking about with Beastmaster here, let's say if we were able to buff our Augmented Porcupine just by playing the 2 mana 3/3/3 spell for Hunter, and this would be a 5/7, 5/7. You would be able to summon it from your hand, and it kind of does threaten, some damage. But this card, I feel like if there are more buff mechanics introduced in this set, then it could really, really take off. But as far as like the baseline, 3 mana 2/4, deal pretty much 2 damage, split between enemy minions is okay. This is also going to be interesting with the card that we reviewed earlier, Terran Gorfiend. Terran Gorfiend, you could pop the Augmented Porcupine and then resummon it back with +1/+1. So I think that that's going to be kind of interesting. Maybe we could get some kind of Death Rattle Hunter or a Death Rattle hybrid Hunter with Leerox in there somewhere. Augmented Porcupine is interesting, but it's going to take a lot of support to get this thing off the ground. But as far as like standalone card, this thing is, I'm going to give the Augmented Porcupine a 2 out of 5. Our next card here is a Mage Legendary spell. We haven't seen those since the quest, so that's pretty interesting. But the Evocation reads, fill your hand with random mage spells at the end of your turn, discard them. So whenever I look at this card, I think of just like a Hail Mary kind of play, which Mage doesn't shy away from. You think about current day puzzle box, you kind of just throw it out there. For 0 mana, if you have the Caligos, or just if you're in a pinch. So I think that Evocation is going to be very interesting because it gives you that ability to fish for another Frost Nova, another Fireball, or 2 Fireballs rather. Like, I just think about the possibilities of, if you're playing a more Casino Mage or Temple Mage based deck, you're going to want Evocation in your deck because you're constantly just kind of pumping out stuff. And this could essentially turn into 10 spells at max. So the value is definitely there. The flexibility is definitely there. It could be anywhere from 1 to 10 cards depending on how depleted you are. If you're a control deck, if you're a mid-range, if you're a Temple based deck. This thing it has the flexibility to fit all of those roles, and I think Evocation is a very strong card, very strong play. And sometimes you just kind of need that freeze to buy yourself another turn. So I think that this is definitely going to fill that gap, and even running it as a 1-of in Mage is not the worst. You could just kind of have it there as a flex spot. So I really like Evocation. I'm going to give Evocation a 4.5 out of 5. Apexis Blast. Apexis Blast is a 5 mana mage spell that reads deal 5 damage. If your deck has no minions, summon a 5-cost minion. So what we see here, clearly another card that has a restriction built in for potential upside, which in this case, it's no minions, just straight up spells. If you meet that requirement, you also get a 5 mana minion summon. So this reminds me more so of Firelands Portal from way back. But I really like the effect here, and kind of like the fact that they're pushing this all spell mage archetype with the card that we previously talked about, Evocation. I think that it might be possible. We do need more supporting cards for that. So if we could get another 2 or 3 spells that we could run 2 of, then I could possibly see that happening. Maybe a deck with Heavy Cycle that's able to pull the 2, let's say Auctioneer I was able to pull that out of the deck and then kind of still meet that requirement if you're able to run out of cards, because technically you don't have any more cards in your deck, right? Or minions in your deck rather. But as far as the requirement's pretty heavy, but the payoff is decent. Dealing 5 damage and then summoning a random 5 cost minion. I like this. I don't like the restriction. I feel like it's going to be kind of hard to pull this off unless we get way more just spell only centric cards for mage. So I'm going to give Apexis Blast here a 3 out of 5. So Apexis Smuggler, same name as the other card that we just mentioned and reviewed, Apexis. But this minion is a 2/3 mage minion in Epic that reads, after you play a secret, discover a spell. So decent stat line. And I think the stat line alone already kind of has it in the middle of the road at like a 3. Because it's a 2-mana 2/3, so very defensive. Whenever you have a card that generates more value, you want it to be higher health and less attack if possible. So I think Apexis Smuggler does check off on that note. But after you play a secret, discover a spell. You probably discover 1 spell off of this, maybe. I don't know. This sounds cool, but maybe you play it when it's mid to late game and you don't necessarily, unless you have to tempo it out to kind of defend yourself from aggression. But I don't know. This is kind of okay. I wish that it was after you play a secret, use a secret from your deck or discover a spell and reduce the cost. That would really make this a decent card. But just discovering a spell, mage spells vary in power level from very weak to pretty decent. So I'm gonna give Smuggler a 2. No, I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5 just because it's a 2/3 with potential upside. Another dormant minion here. We have the Imprisoned Felmaw, a 2-mana 5/4 demon for the Hunter class that reads dormant for 2 turns. When this awakens, attack a random enemy. So 2 mana up front. This thing is chilling for 2 turns, and when it awakens, it could either go directly to the face or it could just kind of ping off a minion. Attack a random enemy. So that random element is what's pretty intriguing, because if the enemy's board is clear, it's just going to be a free 5 damage after 2 turns. If your opponent has, let's say, something very small and then, or a bunch of tokens, then it just attacks a 1/1 most of the time. I don't know. I feel like this not being able to control where it's going and that 2-turn kind of like wait is what's bringing this card down. The stats are pretty impressive for the cost, of course, but that dormant for 2 turns. Maybe we'll see a neutral legendary that accelerates dormant effects, but I'm not really impressed with this. Maybe like that 1 out of 20 games where this is a 50-50. You just drop 2 of these and then they go past like a taunt, because when it's random it could bypass those kind of things. But I don't know. I'm gonna give Felmaw, or maybe I'm just underestimating dormant minions, right? It's just Hearthstone is such a tempo-based game that you want to be doing stuff consistently, turn by turn, either playing a weapon, playing a minion, playing spells. I'm gonna give Felmaw. I'm gonna give it a 2 out of 5. I don't see it. I don't see it. Now the last card that we're reviewing here is Maeiv Shadowsong. Maeiv Shadowsong is a neutral legendary, and this effect is very cool. So her battle cry is choose a minion. It goes dormant for 2 turns. So there's a couple of implications to this. One, let's say your opponent has a huge minion, a 10/10 or something, and you just want to shut it down. You could just target that, let it like go dormant. You can think about it like just putting it to sleep for 2 turns. That minion can't attack, can't be targeted, can't be buffed, can't be anything. Another cool thing, I'm not sure if we're gonna have magnetic, but any minion that was buffed by any spells or anything like that, when you return that minion to dormant state, it pretty much, I'm pretty sure it removes any buffs that the minion has. So that's another implication. The other thing, if you have a minion that already has a dormant effect and they already popped off, let's say the Antium that we were talking about in the last video, deal the 10 damage, you attack face, and then you put it dormant again. Not sure why you would want to do that. Like maybe to avoid it getting targeted again and getting another 10 damage, but you could also target your own minions as well. So this card is very, very flexible, and it's a neutral, which I love. I hope I get this in golden when I get the pre-order, so we'll see. But Maeiv Shadowsong, very interesting effect, and the fact that it could either shut down minions or just double dip on effects that you currently have as far as like dormant effects. I think this is really nice. I'm going to give Maeiv a 5 out of 5. So that wraps it up, guys. Make sure to follow me on Twitch and check us out. We're live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Sunday at twitch.tv/El Platano Loco. Make sure to check us out on Instagram and Twitter as well. We're going to be posting updates about our YouTube videos as we go along, as well as our decks that we're going to be trying out when Ashes of Outland drops. So make sure you're tuned in, all right? And we're revving up to actually start up the next one. So if you're enjoying what you've been seeing so far, make sure to drop a like and a subscription too. It would really be nice. And also hit that bell notification so you know when we go live with another video and you're always up to date. This is El Platano Loco, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.